Miguel Santos had 23 years fishing the Pacific. He ignored a weather warning to save time. His boat broke apart 900 miles from the Mexican coast. He had a torn raft, 2 water bottles, and 72 hours before dehydration killed him. His radio was dead. No rescue was coming. As sharks circled and his mind cracked under the sun, his grandmother's Bible verse became the only thing between him and death adrift. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Miguel woke at 4:47 in the morning, same as always. The Maria Elena rocked gently 40 miles off the Baja California coast. He'd owned this 32-foot fishing boat for 11 years, bought it used but maintained it carefully, mostly carefully. The engine needed work he'd been putting off for 3 months. Cost $4,200 he didn't have yet. He poured black coffee from his thermos and checked the equipment. Nets secure, coolers ready, navigation lights working. The photograph of his grandmother Rosa was taped above the console where it had been since the day he bought the boat. She'd raised him after his parents died when he was 8, taught him to fish, taught him to pray, died 3 years ago at 86. "Another day, abuela," he said to the photo. "The ocean provides, right? That's what you always said." His deckhand Carlos had called in sick yesterday. Some stomach bug. Miguel considered postponing, but the forecast showed good fishing conditions and he needed this trip. The engine repairs couldn't wait much longer. One good catch would cover it. He radioed the harbor master at 6:15. Standard check-in. Position, heading, estimated return time. The harbor master mentioned a storm system about 200 miles south, moving parallel to the coast. Not a concern. Miguel had fished through rough weather plenty of times in 23 years. The sun came up orange and clean. Wind from the south, maybe 10 knots. Swells at 3 feet. Perfect conditions. Miguel steered toward his favorite spot, an underwater ridge he discovered 3 years back that the other fishermen didn't know about. The Maria Elena's diesel engine rumbled steady and familiar beneath his feet. He reached the ridge at 9:30, dropped his lines. Within an hour, the cooler was filling with yellowfin tuna. Beautiful fish, premium price. He worked steadily, hauling line, cleaning catch, resetting gear. This was the kind of day that made the hard days worth it. The radio crackled at 11. Captain Ortiz from the San Pedro, 10 miles east. "Miguel, you seeing this weather shift?" Miguel checked his barometer. It had dropped. Not drastically, but noticeably. He looked south. Clouds building on the horizon, darker than they should be. "I see it," Miguel said. "Still parallel to us, right?" "Was parallel. It's turned north, moving fast. I'm heading in." Miguel looked at his cooler. Half full. Another 3 or 4 hours would fill it completely. The engine repairs covered, maybe with enough left over for new nets. The storm was still 100 miles out. Plenty of time. "I'll keep an eye on it," Miguel said. "Few more hours won't hurt." Ortiz didn't argue. Every fisherman made his own calls. Miguel kept fishing. The tuna kept biting. The barometer kept dropping. By 1 o'clock, the wind had picked up to 20 knots. The clouds weren't on the horizon anymore. They were overhead, moving faster than any weather system he'd seen. He secured his catch and started the engine. Time to run for harbor. The engine coughed twice before catching. That deferred maintenance coming back to haunt him. The first major wave hit as he turned toward home. Water crashed over the bow, flooded the deck. Miguel grabbed the radio. "Coast Guard, this is the Maria Elena. Reporting position and heading to harbor. Conditions deteriorating fast." The Coast Guard response came through with heavy static. "Maria Elena, storm has intensified to Category 1 equivalent. Wind 75 knots at center. Recommend immediate shelter at nearest harbor." Miguel checked his position. 90 miles from home port. 7 hours in good conditions. These weren't good conditions. Waves were building to 8 feet. Wind at 35 knots and climbing. The Maria Elena could handle rough seas, but this was turning into something worse. He strapped on his life vest. Checked the emergency beacon clipped to the console. The EPIRB would transmit his position if things went bad. He tested it 6 months ago. Should still work. Should. The boat pitched hard to port. Everything not secured went sliding. Miguel heard his toolbox crash below deck. He tied himself to the helm with a safety line. His grandmother's voice came to him, something she'd said when he was young and cocky. Pride comes before destruction, mijo. Know when to be humble before God's power. He hadn't been humble. He'd been greedy. 3 more hours of fishing for money he didn't have yet. Another wave broke over the bow, bigger this time. The bilge pump kicked on, working hard to clear the water flooding in. Too much water. The pump couldn't keep up. Miguel left the helm long enough to check below deck. Water was coming in through the hull. Not spray, not overflow. A steady stream near the stern where an old weld had finally given out. The weld he'd noticed last month looking more rusted than usual. The weld he'd planned to fix with the money from this trip. He had minutes, not hours. Miguel scrambled back topside. The life raft canister was mounted on the stern rail, faded from sun exposure. He couldn't remember the last time he'd checked it. 2 years. 3. He pulled the release handle. The canister popped open and the raft began inflating. Something was wrong. One of the chambers wasn't filling properly. A tear in the fabric, maybe 6 inches long. The raft was inflating but only halfway. It would float but barely. A 15-foot wave rose ahead of him. Miguel saw it coming, tried to turn the bow into it, but the Maria Elena was too heavy with water. The wave struck the port side. The boat tilted at 45 degrees. Miguel's feet left the deck. The safety line caught him, jerked him hard against the rail. Everything loose went into the water. His spare fuel cans, his nets, half his tools. The boat righted itself, barely. Miguel heard metal groaning below. The hull was splitting. He grabbed the emergency bag from the console. First aid kit, signal mirror, waterproof matches, fishing line, hooks, knife. Grabbed his 2 water bottles. Grabbed his grandmother's photograph from above the console, stuffed it in the waterproof pouch in his chest pocket. Another wave coming. Bigger than the last. The Maria Elena wasn't going to survive this one. Miguel dove for the life raft as the wave hit. The boat capsized. 23 years of his life vanished beneath the Pacific in less than 2 minutes. He surfaced, gasping, grabbed the raft's rope, and hauled himself onto the half-inflated platform. The ocean was trying to kill him now. He was sitting in 3 inches of water with a storm raging and night coming fast. Miguel activated the EPIRB with shaking hands. The beacon's light started blinking. Red flash every few seconds, transmitting his position to satellites theoretically. If the signal was getting through the storm, if anyone was receiving it, if the unit was actually working after being mounted on the Maria Elena for 6 years without maintenance. Too many ifs. The storm hit full force as darkness fell. Wind screamed at 50 knots. Waves lifted the raft 12 feet up, dropped it into troughs that felt like falling off a building. Miguel used the emergency bag strap to tie himself to the raft's rope handles. If he got thrown out, he'd never climb back in. Water poured over the sides constantly. The tear in the raft's chamber was getting worse. Miguel bailed with his hands, scooping water out as fast as it came in. His arms burned, his hands cramped. He couldn't stop. Stop bailing, and the raft would sink under the weight of the water. A wave nearly capsized him at 8 o'clock. The raft tilted vertical. Miguel hung from the safety line, suspended over black water, certain he was going in. Then the raft slammed back down. One of his water bottles flew out. Gone. He lunged for the second bottle, caught it, clutched it to his chest. 1.5 liters. That was all he had now. The cold was worse than the waves. Water temperature was 68 degrees. Not freezing, but cold enough. Wet clothes, wind chill, constant immersion. Hypothermia was setting in. Miguel's core temperature was dropping. He shivered violently. His thoughts started getting fuzzy. He forced himself to keep moving, bailing, checking the raft's patches, flexing his fingers and toes. Movement generated heat. Stop moving and he'd die of hypothermia before the dehydration killed him. Around midnight, he started seeing things. His grandmother standing on the waves, solid and real, walking toward him across the water like it was pavement. Abuela! His voice was hoarse from shouting into the wind. She didn't answer, just stood there, 20 feet away watching him. Then she was gone. Hallucination? Had to be. But it felt real. Miguel pulled out her photograph. The waterproof pouch had protected it. He could barely see it in the darkness, but he didn't need to see it. He knew every detail. Her smile, her hands, the way she'd looked at him when she taught him things. When you pass through the waters, he will be with you. That's what she'd told him during a thunderstorm when he was 9. Words from the Bible, from Isaiah. And through the rivers, they shall not overflow you. He'd forgotten that verse until now, hadn't thought about it in 20 years. But here it was, surfacing in his memory exactly when he needed it. Through the waters, Miguel whispered, he will be with you. The storm didn't care about Bible verses. Waves kept coming. Wind kept screaming. The night stretched on forever, every minute feeling like an hour. Miguel bailed and shivered and prayed and hallucinated and refused to die. Dawn came slowly, gray light filtering through gray clouds. The storm had passed. The ocean was calming to 4-foot swells. Miguel looked around. 360 degrees of empty ocean. No land, no ships, no debris from his boat. Nothing but water stretching to every horizon. He was alone in the largest ocean on Earth, and nobody knew where he was. Miguel took inventory at first light. His emergency bag contained a small first aid kit, signal mirror, waterproof matches, emergency blanket, fishing line with 3 hooks, and a knife. 1 water bottle with maybe 1.5 liters. The EPIRB was still blinking. His life vest, his clothes, his grandmother's photograph. That was everything. No food, no shelter, no way to contact anyone except the beacon. The raft was in bad shape. The 6-inch tear in one chamber had spread to 8 inches during the night. Miguel examined it carefully. The emergency blanket was reflective mylar, thin but waterproof. He cut a piece with his knife and pressed it over the tear, using the pressure of the water to hold it in place. Not a real fix. Just slowing the leak. He was sitting in 4 inches of water. The raft was staying afloat, but barely. He'd need to bail constantly. His body wasn't in much better shape than the raft. A cut on his forehead from being thrown against the cabin when the boat capsized. Dried blood crusted down the side of his face. Both hands torn up from grabbing ropes and sharp metal. Bruised ribs. Everything hurt, but he was alive. Miguel opened the water bottle and took 3 small sips. Maybe 100 milliliters total. He wanted to drink more. His throat was raw from screaming in salt water. But 3 days without water would kill him. He had to ration. The sun climbed higher. No clouds now. Just brutal, direct sunlight reflecting off the water. Miguel's skin was already starting to burn on his face and neck and hands. The emergency blanket could work as a sunshade. He used fishing line to rig it over part of the raft, creating a small canopy. Crude but functional. A dorsal fin cut through the water 50 yards away. Miguel's stomach went cold. The fin was maybe 2 feet tall. Blue shark probably. 7 or 8 feet long. It circled slowly, investigating. Sharks could smell blood from miles away. His head wound had stopped bleeding, but the scent was in the water. The shark made 2 more circles, then moved off. Not attacking. Just curious. For now. Miguel checked the EPIRB again. Still blinking. The Coast Guard should respond within 24 hours to an emergency beacon. Should. But he drifted all night in the storm. The currents had pushed him God knows how far from his last reported position, and the signal had to get through the storm interference first. He had no way to know if anyone had received his SOS. The ocean was perfectly calm now. Gentle swells. Beautiful blue water. Like the storm had never happened. Like his boat hadn't just sunk with everything he owned. The Pacific was indifferent to his survival. It would kill him without malice, just the way it killed everything that couldn't adapt. Miguel pulled out his grandmother's photograph. On the back, in her handwriting, she'd written, Isaiah 43:2, for when you need it most. He'd never noticed that before. Never looked at the back of the photo. She knew. Somehow she knew he would need this. When you pass through the waters, he will be with you, Miguel said aloud. His voice sounded strange in the silence. Through the rivers, they shall not overflow you. But what if the waters never ended? What if there was no shore, no rescue, just endless drifting until the dehydration, or the sun, or the sharks finished what the storm started? Miguel shook his head. That kind of thinking would kill him faster than thirst. Day 2 started with ritual. Miguel forced himself to establish a routine. Routines kept you sane. Routines gave structure when everything else was chaos. Dawn, check the raft patches. Assess his physical condition. Drink 1 sip of water. Morning. Exercise. He couldn't just sit still. Blood clots would form in his legs. Muscles would atrophy. He did leg lifts while holding the raft's rope. Arm movements. Anything to keep circulation going. Midday. Seek shade under his makeshift canopy and try to fish. He had 3 hooks and fishing line. The ocean was full of fish. Catching one was survival. He baited a hook with a small piece of the emergency blanket's fabric, shiny and reflective. Dropped the line over the side. Waited. His hands shook from exhaustion and hunger. He'd eaten nothing since yesterday morning. His body was already starting to consume itself. An hour passed. 2 hours. Nothing. The sun hammered down. Miguel's lips were cracking. His urine was dark amber when he peed off the side of the raft. Dehydration setting in already. On the 3rd hour, something hit the line. Miguel jerked it up. A small triggerfish, maybe 8 inches long. Not much meat, but it was food. He pulled it into the raft, killed it quickly with his knife. The fish thrashed and went still. Miguel stared at it. Raw fish, no fire, no way to cook it. Just raw flesh that might be contaminated, might make him sick, might kill him faster than starvation. He had no choice. He cut into the fish, hands shaking. Ate a small piece. His stomach immediately rejected it. He leaned over the side and vomited. The water he'd drunk that morning came back up. Wasted. Miguel waited 10 minutes, tried again. Smaller piece this time. Chewed it slowly, forced his throat to swallow. His stomach churned but kept it down. He ate half the fish over the next hour, saved the rest for later. Protein was critical. His body needed fuel. By late afternoon, the clouds were building again. Not a storm, just afternoon weather. Miguel spread the emergency blanket to collect any rain that fell. He needed water more than he needed shade. The rain came at 5 o'clock. Light drizzle. Miguel tilted his head back, opened his mouth, let the drops hit his tongue. Not enough to satisfy thirst, but enough to wet his mouth. He held the emergency blanket at an angle, channeling water into his bottle. Collected maybe 500 milliliters before the rain stopped. It was something. An extra day of survival. That night, Miguel saw a ship, container vessel, lights blazing, maybe 2 miles away. Close enough to signal. He grabbed the mirror, angled it to catch the last rays of sunset, flashed it toward the ship. SOS pattern. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short. He waved his arms. Screamed until his throat bled. The ship was right there. Right there. It kept going. Didn't see him. A tiny orange raft on an enormous blue ocean. The ship disappeared over the horizon. Miguel collapsed in the raft. He'd been so close to rescue, and they'd missed him completely. He pulled out his grandmother's photograph. His hands were trembling, not from cold this time, from despair. Abuela, I don't know if I can do this, he whispered. That ship was right there. The photograph didn't answer, but her words came to him anyway. Something else she'd said when he was young. Faith isn't about knowing the future, mijo. It's about trusting when you can't see the way. Miguel put the photo away, drank 1 sip of water, lay back in the raft and watched the stars come out. Tomorrow he'd try again. Days 3 through 7 blurred together. Miguel maintained his routine because the alternative was giving up. Wake at dawn, check patches, sip water, exercise, fish, watch for ships, pray, sleep in 2-hour increments. Repeat. His body was deteriorating, weight falling off, ribs showing through his skin, sunburn peeling in sheets, leaving raw red flesh underneath. His lips cracked and bled every time he spoke. He stopped speaking except to pray. Day 4 brought more rain, heavy this time. Miguel collected almost a liter, bringing his total supply back up to 2 liters. The rain felt like a gift, like someone was listening. Day 5, he caught another fish. Larger than the first. A small mahi-mahi that fought hard against the line. Miguel's hands were blistered and weak, but he hauled it in. Killed it. Ate half and saved half. His stomach was adapting to the raw fish. Still made him nauseous, but he kept it down. Day 6, the sharks came back. 3 of them this time. Different species. They circled the raft for hours, bumping it occasionally, testing it. Miguel sat absolutely still. Any thrashing, any panic movements would trigger an attack response. He'd seen it happen to other fishermen who'd fallen overboard. The sharks investigated the raft's bottom. One scraped along the underside, its rough skin making a horrible grinding sound against the inflatable fabric. Miguel held his breath. If they punctured another chamber, he was done. They moved on eventually, but they didn't go far. He could see dorsal fins in the distance, waiting. Day 7 was the worst. No rain, no fish. Water supply down to maybe 3 sips left. The sun was relentless. Miguel's vision started to blur. He couldn't remember what day it was. Couldn't remember his sister's name for a full minute. His thoughts were fragmenting. He pulled out the photograph again. His grandmother's face looked back at him. She'd been tough, survived the death of her husband, raised a grandson alone, worked until she was 80, never complained, never quit. When you pass through the waters, Miguel said. His voice was a rasp. He will be with you. But where was he? Miguel looked at the empty horizon. 7 days drifting. The Aperb still blinking, but no rescue. Either the signal wasn't getting through or no one was looking anymore. After a week, they'd probably declared him lost at sea. His sister would be planning a funeral. His friends would be drinking to his memory. He was already dead to them. A wave of rage hit him. At himself for ignoring the weather warning, at the storm for destroying his boat, at God for putting him here, at his grandmother for making him believe there was a point to any of this. "Where are you?" Miguel screamed at the sky. "Where?" The ocean didn't answer. The sky didn't answer. Nothing answered. Miguel collapsed back into the raft. The rage drained out of him, leaving only exhaustion. He closed his eyes. Maybe he'd just sleep, just drift off and not wake up. It would be easier than fighting, but his grandmother's voice came again. Not a hallucination this time, just memory, clear and strong. "The waters don't care about easy, mijo. They only respect those who refuse to drown." Miguel opened his eyes, drank his last sip of water, started bailing again. The raft was taking on water through the patches, always taking on water. His hands moved automatically, scooping and dumping. Scooping and dumping. He wasn't dead yet. That had to mean something. This story takes time to craft. If you're enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Day 8 started with clouds, dark ones building from the west. Miguel's water was gone. His tongue was swollen in his mouth. He couldn't produce saliva. Swallowing hurt. He needed that storm. It hit at noon. Not as violent as the first one, but still dangerous. 40-knot winds. 10-foot waves. Miguel didn't care about the danger. He spread the emergency blanket wide, angled it to catch every drop. Rain hammered down. He opened his mouth and let it pour in. The water tasted like salvation. He collected 3 liters over 2 hours, filled his bottle, used his shirt as a second container. When the storm passed, he had more water than he'd started with. But the storm brought another problem. A massive wave caught the raft sideways and nearly flipped it. Miguel grabbed the ropes as water poured over him. He went under for 3 seconds. 5. 10. The raft surfaced and he surfaced with it, coughing up seawater. The Aperb was gone, ripped from its clip and swept overboard. Miguel watched it sink, the red light blinking as it disappeared into blue-black water. His only connection to rescue, gone. For a full minute, Miguel couldn't process it. He stared at the empty clip. The Coast Guard wasn't coming. No one was coming. No one even knew he was alive anymore. He was completely alone. The panic hit then, real panic. Heart racing, hyperventilating. Miguel forced himself to breathe slowly, in through nose, out through mouth. The panic could kill him faster than thirst. "Okay," he said aloud. "No beacon. No one's looking. You're on your own." The storm lasted through the night. Miguel spent hours repatching the raft. The tear had worsened to 12 inches. He used the last of his emergency blanket to cover it, securing it with fishing line. Day 9 brought hypothermia again. Miguel shivered violently. His core temperature had dropped during the night's storm. Wet clothes, cold wind, no way to get warm. He did exercises, flexed every muscle group, generated heat through motion. Day 10, he caught nothing. No fish, no rain. Just brutal sun and empty ocean. His water supply was dropping again. Day 11 brought delirium. Miguel saw his boat floating in the distance, the Maria Elena intact and perfect. He almost dove in to swim to it before realizing it wasn't real. His grandmother appeared that night, sat in the raft with him, solid and real. They talked for hours. Miguel knew she wasn't really there, but he didn't care. "Am I dying, abuela?" "You're living, mijo. This is what living looks like sometimes. It hurts. The best things usually do." When dawn came, she was gone. Miguel was alone again. But something had shifted. The hallucination had calmed something in him. He checked his water. Maybe 4 days left if he rationed carefully. He had fishing line. He had his knife. He had his faith, fractured as it was. And he was still breathing. Days 12 through 14 brought a different kind of suffering. The physical pain Miguel could handle. The psychological torment was harder. Time stopped meaning anything. Miguel would close his eyes for what felt like minutes and open them to find hours had passed. He talked to himself constantly now. Conversations with his grandmother, with his sister, with God. Day 13, he caught a larger fish. A bonito, maybe 2 pounds. It hit the line hard and fought. Miguel's weakened arms could barely hold on. He landed it, killed it, ate half immediately. The protein hit his system like a drug. He noticed something while eating. The watercolor had changed, slightly. A different shade of blue. Colder, too. The current had shifted. Different birds appeared overhead. Species he didn't recognize. They circled high, riding thermals. Miguel's hands were infected. One of the cuts from the boat had gotten worse. Red streaks ran up his forearm. Blood poisoning. Without antibiotics, it would spread to his bloodstream. He cleaned the wound as best he could, used his knife to drain the worst of the pus, screamed into his fist while he did it, washed it with salt water even though it felt like pouring acid into his veins. It wasn't enough. The infection was spreading, fever building, chills despite the sun. Day 14, he completely lost track of reality. Hours disappeared. The ocean spoke to him in his mother's voice. The stars formed words he couldn't quite read. His grandmother appeared again. This time she brought his mother, both of them sitting in the raft, smiling at him. "You can rest now," his mother said. "You've done enough. It would be easy. Just slip into the water. Let go." Miguel's hand actually moved toward the side of the raft, then stopped. "When you pass through the waters, he will be with you. Not if you pass through. When." The verse assumed passage, assumed continuation. "I'm not through them yet," Miguel said aloud. His mother and grandmother faded. Hallucinations. His brain trying to give him permission to quit. That night brought another storm. Smaller than the others, but Miguel was weaker. Every wave felt like it would be the one that finally capsized him. He held on, bailed water, rode it out. The storm brought rain. Another leader collected. Day 15 dawned clear and calm. Miguel's fever had broken slightly. The infection was still there, but not worse. His body was fighting it with resources it didn't have. He was down 20 pounds now, maybe more. Skeletal. His clothes hung off him. Every movement took effort. But he moved anyway. Routine, exercise, fish, pray, survive. One more day. That's all he needed. Just survive one more day. Days 16 through 18 tested Miguel in ways the storm and thirst hadn't. His mind was fragmenting. Reality and hallucination mixed until he couldn't tell which was which. Day 16, he had full conversations with people who weren't there. Captain Ortiz from the San Pedro stood on the water next to his raft, giving him advice about the currents. When he blinked, Ortiz was gone. The scary part wasn't the hallucinations. The scary part was how normal they felt. His body was shutting down piece by piece. No urine production anymore. His kidneys were failing. Dark circles under his eyes. Sunken cheeks. Skin stretched tight over bones. Day 17 brought a crisis. A tiger shark. Massive. 10 feet at least. It came from below and hit the raft hard. The shark rolled, its dead black eye level with his face for one frozen second. Then it bit down on the raft's edge. The remaining inflated chamber punctured with a hiss. Air escaped. The raft started sinking. Miguel grabbed his emergency blanket remnants, pressed them over the new tear, used his body weight to hold them in place. The shark let go and circled, came back, bumped the raft again. Miguel stayed absolutely motionless. 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes. The shark made one more circle and swam away. Miguel's hands shook as he patched the new tear, used fishing line to secure the blanket pieces. The raft was barely staying afloat now. Multiple patches, multiple leaks. He sat in 6 inches of water constantly. That night he broke, completely broke, screamed at God, at the ocean, at himself for being stupid enough to ignore the weather warning. Screamed until his throat was raw and bleeding. "What do you want from me?" Miguel shouted at the sky. "I'm praying. I'm trusting. I'm doing everything right, and I'm still dying out here. What's the point?" The ocean didn't answer. Stars came out, cold and distant. Miguel pulled out his grandmother's photograph. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely hold it. The photo was still pristine while he was falling apart. He read the verse on the back again. Isaiah 43:2. "For when you need it most." "I need it now, abuela," he whispered. "Right now, because I don't think I can do another day." The photograph didn't answer, but something shifted in Miguel as he held it. Not peace exactly, not hope. Something smaller but stronger. Acceptance. He might die out here. Probably would die out here. But he'd made it this far. 18 days that should have killed him 10 times over. Maybe the verse wasn't about rescue. Maybe it was about endurance. About being with God through the suffering, not being rescued from it. About passing through the waters, not around them. Miguel put the photo away, drank a small sip of water, lay back and watched the stars wheel overhead. Day 18 ended quietly. No drama, no crisis. Just Miguel breathing in the darkness, counting each breath as a small victory. Still alive, still here, still passing through the waters. Tomorrow he'd do it again. Between day 15 and 16, Miguel experienced something he couldn't explain. The water around his raft turned warm. Not ocean warm, bathtub warm. It lasted maybe 20 minutes before the cold Pacific returned. He checked his fever, thinking the infection was making him hallucinate temperatures. But when he dipped his hand in, the water was genuinely hot. Some underwater thermal vent maybe, or his mind finally breaking completely. He didn't care which. For those 20 minutes, he wasn't cold. Day 16 morning, he discovered his fishing line had tangled during the night. Took him 2 hours to untangle it with shaking hands and blurred vision. 2 hours he should have spent resting. But without the line, he couldn't fish. Without fish, he'd starve faster. The knots finally came free. He baited a hook immediately, dropped it over the side, fell asleep waiting for a bite. He woke to the line jerking hard, nearly lost it overboard. A yellow-fin tuna, small but strong. It pulled him halfway over the raft's edge before the line snapped. The fish was gone, his last hook with it. Miguel stared at the broken line. He had 2 hooks left, 2 chances. After that, no more fishing. His hands wouldn't stop shaking as he tied on the second hook. Days 19 through 28 were the dying days. Miguel knew it with certainty now. His body was failing in ways he couldn't fix. The infection in his arm had spread past his elbow. Red streaks ran all the way to his shoulder. Blood poisoning. Sepsis would set in soon. His water ran out on day 22. No rain, no clouds, just endless sun and burning thirst. Day 23, his lips cracked so badly they bled constantly. He couldn't close his mouth without pain. Salt water got in the wounds and made it worse. Every breath tasted like copper and brine. He stopped exercising. Couldn't. His muscles wouldn't respond. When he tried to do leg lifts, his legs just twitched uselessly. His body was consuming itself, eating muscle tissue for fuel. Day 24, he caught a fish with his second-to-last hook, small mackerel. He ate it, but his stomach rejected it immediately. His digestive system was shutting down. The third hook went into the water on day 25. His last one. It hung there for 6 hours, nothing bit. Miguel pulled it up at sunset. 1 hook. That's all he had left. Day 26 brought the worst pain yet. His kidneys were failing. sharp stabbing pain in his lower back. His urine was the color of rust when he could produce any. His body was poisoning itself from the inside. He lay in the raft and couldn't move. The sun hammered down, but he barely felt it. His nerve endings were shutting off. His grandmother appeared again, sat beside him. This time she didn't speak, just sat there with her hand on his forehead like she used to when he was sick as a child. "I don't think I'm going to make it, Abuela," Miguel whispered. She smiled, sad but peaceful. Day 27, he prepared to die. Accepted it fully. He'd fought for 4 weeks, longer than anyone had a right to expect. Miguel pulled out the photograph one last time. The verse on the back was smudged now from his fingers, touching it so many times. "When you pass through the waters, he will be with you." "I'm passing through them," Miguel said. His voice was barely a whisper. "But I'm drowning, Abuela. The waters are overflowing me." He tucked the photo back, closed his eyes, said a final prayer. Not for rescue, just for peace. The sun set on day 27. Miguel didn't think he'd see day 28, but dawn came anyway. He was still breathing. Day 28, he couldn't remember his sister's name, couldn't remember the name of his boat, could barely remember his own name. But he remembered the verse. "Through the waters," he murmured, "he will be with you." The sharks circled closer. They knew. Death was coming. They were just waiting. Days 29 through 35 blurred into one endless nightmare. Miguel existed more than lived. Consciousness came and went like waves. Day 29 brought rain. Miguel forced his mouth open, let the drops hit his swollen tongue. Collected maybe half a liter. It bought him a few more days. The infection was winning. His entire arm was swollen now, hot to the touch. The red streaks had reached his chest. Day 30, he had a vision. He saw himself from above, looking down at the raft, saw how far he drifted, over 900 miles from where his boat sank. He saw his grandmother standing in the water beside the raft, standing on the surface like it was solid ground. She smiled at him, reached out her hand. Miguel almost took it, almost let go and joined her. But her smile changed, not beckoning anymore, encouraging, like she was saying not yet. Day 31, his heart started beating irregularly. Arrhythmia, he could feel it. Thump, thump. Long pause. Thump. His cardiovascular system was failing. He couldn't move his left arm anymore. The infection had destroyed the muscle tissue. Day 32, he stopped being able to tell what was real. His mother was there, his father, Captain Ortiz, his sister. They all visited. He answered them, had conversations. When lucidity returned, he was alone. Day 33, he decided to try the last hook. His hands shook so badly he could barely tie it to the line. Dropped it over the side. Something hit it within minutes. Hard. Miguel pulled. A fish. Bonito. Maybe 3 pounds. The line snapped. His last hook disappeared into the depths. No more fishing. No more food. Just slow starvation. Day 34, he made his peace with God. Not bargaining, not begging, just acceptance. "I don't understand your plan," Miguel whispered, "but I trust you. Even if I die here, I trust you." Something shifted in him. Not hope, just peace. Day 35, he woke to find land birds circling overhead. Frigate birds, pelicans. Land birds didn't fly more than 50 miles from shore. He was near land. Miguel tried to sit up. His body wouldn't cooperate. He managed to lift his head, saw the birds clearly. Real. Land. There was land somewhere close. Days 36 and 37 were spent watching the birds and trying to determine direction. The birds flew in consistent patterns. Southeast in the morning, northwest in the evening. Land was southeast. He tried to paddle with his one working arm. Useless. The current was too strong and he was too weak. Day 36 evening, he saw debris in the water. Seaweed, driftwood. Signs of nearness to shore. Land was close. Maybe 30 miles. Maybe 50. But the current wasn't taking him toward shore. It was running parallel to it. The ocean was going to carry him right past whatever land was out there. Miguel had to make a decision. Stay with the raft and hope the current eventually turned toward shore, or abandon the raft and try to swim for it. The raft had kept him alive for 36 days. Leaving it was suicide, but staying might be suicide too. Day 37 morning brought the decision point. Miguel saw lights on the horizon, civilization, mountains behind the lights, a coastline. The current was taking him parallel to it, maybe 3 miles offshore. He watched for 6 hours as the coastline slowly passed. By evening, he'd made his choice. He was going to swim for it. Miguel knew the odds. 3 miles in his condition, severe dehydration, infection, organ failure. The sharks that had been following him, it was almost certainly a death sentence. But staying was definitely a death sentence. At least swimming gave him a chance. He prepared as best he could, drank the last few drops of rainwater, took off his life vest. It was waterlogged and heavy, kept only his grandmother's photograph. He looked at the raft. This platform had kept him alive for 37 days. "Thank you," he said to it. Miguel said one final prayer, not for rescue, just for strength. "When you pass through the waters, he will be with you." Miguel whispered the verse. "Through the rivers, they shall not overflow you." He slipped off the raft into the Pacific Ocean at 4 in the afternoon on day 37. The water was cold. Shock to his system, he oriented toward the shore, toward the mountains, picked a landmark and started swimming. One stroke, then another, then another. His arms barely worked. His legs could kick only weakly, but he swam anyway. The sharks were there. He could see dorsal fins cutting through the water. One surfaced 50 yards to his right. A tiger shark. It didn't attack, just watched, followed. Miguel kept swimming. "Through the waters," he gasped. "He will be with you." Between days 30 and 31, Miguel experienced his closest brush with death yet. Not from thirst or infection, from despair. He woke in the middle of the night to find himself halfway over the side of the raft. His body had moved on its own, unconsciously trying to slip into the water. End the suffering while he slept. His survival instinct had shut off. Miguel pulled himself back into the raft, lay there shaking, not from cold, from the realization that part of him wanted to die, was actively trying to die. He tied himself to the raft with fishing line after that, wrapped it around his waist 3 times, knotted it tight. If his body tried to give up again, at least he wouldn't drown in his sleep. Day 32 brought a new horror. Miguel's teeth started falling out, just came loose in his gums. He spit one into his hand and stared at it. Scurvy, probably. His body was breaking down at the cellular level now. Vitamin deficiencies causing organ and tissue failure. He had maybe a week left, maybe less. That afternoon he saw a whale, humpback, massive, surfacing 100 yards from the raft. It breached completely, its entire body coming out of the water. 40 tons of living creature suspended in air for one impossible moment. Then it crashed back down, sending spray 50 feet high. Miguel watched it with tears running down his face. Beautiful. After 32 days of suffering and dying, something beautiful. The whale surfaced twice more, then dove deep and disappeared. "Thank you," Miguel whispered, to the whale, to God, to whoever was listening. Day 33 afternoon, after losing his last hook, Miguel did something he hadn't done in weeks. He laughed. Not happy laughter, borderline hysterical, but laughter nonetheless. Here he was, dying slowly in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and he just lost his last fishing hook. It was absurd, cosmically absurd. All his planning, all his survival skills, all his faith, and he'd been undone by a snapped fishing line. The laughter turned to sobs. The sobs turned back to laughter. Miguel couldn't tell which was which anymore. When he finally stopped, his throat was raw and his ribs ached. But something had released in him, some final tension letting go. The 34th evening, he had a conversation with God that felt different from all the others. Not begging, not bargaining, just honest. "I don't know why this happened," Miguel said aloud. "I don't know what you want me to learn. I don't know if there's a purpose or if I'm just unlucky, but I'm still here. After 34 days, I'm still here. That has to mean something." The stars came out, thousands of them. Miguel had never seen so many stars before the boat sank. Light pollution on shore hid most of them, But out here, the sky was full of them, infinite points of light in the darkness. If I die tomorrow, Miguel continued, at least I saw this. At least I didn't give up. At least I kept faith, even when it made no sense. He fell asleep watching the stars, slept better that night than he had in a week. Miguel swam for 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours. Time stopped meaning anything. There was only the next stroke, and the next. The shore was closer, definitely closer. He could see details now. Rocky beach, trees behind it, mountains rising green and steep. But the distance wasn't shrinking fast enough. He'd covered maybe a mile, 2 miles to go. His arms were failing, each stroke weaker than the last. His legs had stopped kicking entirely. The sharks circled tighter, 3 of them now. The tiger shark and 2 blues. They bumped him occasionally, testing. Miguel knew the behavior. The sharks were working up to an attack. He kept swimming. What else could he do? The sun was setting. If he didn't reach shore before dark, he was finished. His vision started tunneling, peripheral vision going dark. His body was shutting down. Miguel went under, swallowed water, came back up coughing, went under again. His arms wouldn't work. He was drowning. After 37 days of survival, he was drowning within sight of land. No, Miguel gasped. Not now. Not this close. He forced his arms to move. 1 stroke, his right arm only. His left was completely useless. 1 stroke, rest, another stroke. The shore was a mile away, might as well be 1,000. Miguel's face went under again. This time he didn't have the strength to come back up. Water filled his mouth, his lungs. He was sinking. His grandmother's voice came to him, clear and strong. When you pass through the waters, he will be with you. Through the rivers, they shall not overflow you. Miguel's feet touched something. Bottom, shallow water. He forced his legs to work, pushed against the sand. His head broke the surface. He gasped air, coughed up seawater. His feet found purchase. He was standing, waist deep, then chest deep, then up to his knees. He crawled the last 50 yards, on hands and knees through the surf, over rocks that cut his hands and knees. He didn't feel it. His hand closed on dry sand, above the tide line. Land. Miguel pulled himself completely out of the water, collapsed face down on the beach. He couldn't move, could barely breathe. But he was on land. After 37 days adrift in a 4-mile swim that should have killed him, he was on land. He turned his head, looked back at the ocean. The sharks were still out there, but they couldn't reach him now. Through the waters, Miguel whispered into the sand. You were with me, the whole time. He laughed, cried. His body shook with emotion and exhaustion and relief. Then darkness took him. Miguel's consciousness shut off like a switch. His body had given everything it had. He'd made it to shore. Against every odd, he'd survived. Voices woke Miguel. Spanish, male, multiple people. Hands touching him gently, rolling him over. Someone saying, "Está vivo," barely but alive. Miguel tried to open his eyes. His eyelids were crusted shut with salt and sand. Someone poured water over his face. His eyes opened. 3 men stood over him, fishermen. They'd been checking their nets at dawn and found him on the beach. Agua, Miguel croaked. Water. One of the fishermen held a bottle to his lips. Miguel drank. Too fast, choked. The fisherman pulled the bottle back. Slowly, senor. Your body needs time. They gave him water in small sips. Asked his name. Asked where he came from. Miguel tried to answer, but his throat wouldn't work properly. The fishermen wrapped him in blankets. One ran to get his truck. They were in a small village on the Baja California coast, Puerto Santo. The nearest hospital was 2 hours south. Miguel's body went into shock during the truck ride, shivering violently despite the blankets. His core temperature had plummeted. His system was crashing. He drifted in and out of consciousness. Woke in a small clinic. A doctor leaning over him, older man, speaking to someone Miguel couldn't see. Severe dehydration, kidney failure, blood poisoning. He shouldn't be alive. Miguel tried to speak. The doctor noticed, leaned closer. How long were you at sea? 37, Miguel whispered. Days. The doctor's eyes widened. 37 días. That's not possible. But it was. Miguel's body told the story. 32 pounds of weight loss, severe sunburn, muscle atrophy, organ damage, scurvy, infections. The doctor started an IV, fluids first, antibiotics, pain medication. Days 38 through 40 were critical. The doctor told him later he almost died 3 times. His kidneys had shut down. They transported him to a larger hospital in La Paz for dialysis. The infection required surgery. They cut away dead tissue from his arm. The blood poisoning had spread throughout his system. Touch and go for 72 hours. But Miguel's body had survived 37 days adrift. It wasn't ready to give up now. Day 41, he woke fully conscious for the first time. A hospital room. His sister Maria sitting beside his bed, crying. "Miguel!" She grabbed his hand. "We thought you were dead. They declared you lost at sea after 72 hours. "I know," Miguel said. "I thought I was dead too." "How? How did you survive that long?" Miguel reached for his chest. The waterproof pouch was gone. Panic hit him. His grandmother's photograph. "Looking for this." Maria held up the pouch. "The doctor saved it." She handed it to him. Miguel opened it with shaking hands. The photograph was there, undamaged. His grandmother's face looking back at him. The verse written on the back still legible. "She was with me," Miguel said, "the whole time. Her words kept me alive." Recovery took 8 months. Miguel spent the first 3 weeks in the hospital. Dialysis to restart his kidneys. Multiple surgeries. Physical therapy to rebuild wasted muscles. The doctors told him he'd lost 32 pounds. His kidney function was at 15% when they found him. The infection should have killed him a week before he reached shore. By every medical standard, you shouldn't be alive, Dr. Reyes told him on day 47. Miguel looked at his grandmother's photograph on the bedside table. "I had help. The Coast Guard came to interview him." Miguel told them everything. The weather warning he ignored. The Maria Elena sinking. The EPIRB washing overboard. 37 days drifting over 1,000 miles. The Coast Guard officer shook his head. "We stopped searching after 5 days. We assumed you were dead." "I assumed that too," Miguel said, "but I kept praying anyway." By day 60, Miguel could walk short distances. He'd regained 15 pounds. The infection scars would stay with him forever, but the tissue was healing. His kidneys had recovered to 40% function. Maria visited every day. His fishing community had held a memorial service for him, donated money to cover his boat loss. "Except I'm not gone," Miguel said. Day 75, he was released from the hospital. Maria drove him back to their home port. Miguel stared out the window at the Pacific Ocean, the same ocean that had tried to kill him. He wasn't afraid of it. The fishing community threw him a welcome home party. Miguel told his story about the storm, the raft, the sharks, the swim to shore. "How did you survive that long?" someone asked. Miguel pulled out his grandmother's photograph, showed them the verse on the back. "When you pass through the waters, he will be with you." My grandmother taught me that when I was 9. I didn't understand what it meant until I was dying in the middle of the Pacific. He paused, looked at the faces around him. "The verse doesn't promise you won't go through the waters. It promises God will be with you when you do. That's not rescue, that's presence, and presence was enough." 6 months later, Miguel bought a new boat, 35 feet, modern safety equipment, 2 EPIRBs, satellite phone, emergency supplies rated for 90 days. He named it Rosa after his grandmother. His first trip back out, Maria came to see him off. "You're really going back. After everything." Miguel looked at the ocean. "The waters don't own me. I pass through them." He steered the Rosa out of harbor. The Pacific stretched before him, vast and blue. Miguel wasn't afraid. The ocean had tested him, and he'd survived. Above the helm, his grandmother's photograph hung in a new frame. Miguel touched it once before heading to open water. "Through the waters," he said quietly. "You were with me." And he knew it was true. Day 47 brought the worst news. The infection had done permanent damage to Miguel's left arm. Dr. Reyes showed him the scans. Nerve damage, muscle tissue that wouldn't regenerate, limited mobility and strength. You'll regain maybe 60% function, Dr. Reyes said. The rest is gone. Miguel stared at his arm. Scarred, weak, a permanent reminder of 37 days at sea. He should be angry, should be devastated, but all he felt was gratitude. He was alive. The arm had gotten infected, keeping him alive. Fair trade. Physical therapy started day 50. A young therapist named Carmen worked with him 3 hours a day. Simple exercises that felt impossible. Lift a 1-pound weight, squeeze a rubber ball, flex his fingers. It hurts, Miguel said through gritted teeth. Good, Carmen replied. Pain means the nerves still work. We can rebuild what's left. Week by week, his strength returned. Not all of it, but enough. By day 90, he could grip a fishing line, could tie knots, could do the basic tasks his profession required. The psychological recovery was harder than the physical. Miguel had nightmares every night. Drowning dreams, endless water, sharks circling. He'd wake up screaming, tangled in sheets soaked with sweat. A therapist at the hospital recommended counseling. Miguel went twice before quitting. The counselor wanted to talk about trauma and PTSD and coping mechanisms. Miguel didn't want to talk. He wanted to fish. Maria understood. You processed it out there, she said. 37 days was your therapy. You don't need someone to explain what you already know. True. If this story meant something to you, drop a comment and share it. It helps the next person find their way here.